on board as well with LinkedIn shortly afterwards as well. If you're watching this right now with us live stream, engage with me. Leave a comment. Love to interact with you. If you're watching this on the replay, hey, leave a message and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. So, again, just a recap for those joining us again. My name is Mark Buzan. I'm a former two-time executive director of 2 national associations and president of the same. Father of a wonderful little guy named Simon, who keeps me active. Founder of the Society of NonProfit Board Directors and of our Executive Director Association Management Services. Today I'm here to talk to you about another bottleneck, a real big challenge I hear about after chatting with hundreds of board directors and surveying them over the years. And it's something that I call one of the biggest bottlenecks in that boards tend to sometimes come up with great ideas, great strategic planning sessions and then they go whistling Dixie and or gathering dust or you hear crickets, however you want to put it. Nothing seems to really happen with them. And for the really motivated type of person, that can be really frustrating. And so how many of you really are that would like to hear a little bit more about how nonprofits can actually tangibly see results on their ideas and that they get followed up on? Okay, heart me on this. I want to let you know that as what's been explained to me, as what I understand, is through Facebook, through Periscope, for other kind of medium as like. If you heart this rather than like it or commented on it particularly, a little bit more than just the thumbs up, it gets passed out more. So you'd be doing me a huge, enormous favor, and I think, I hope as well, you'd believe with me, society a greater favor, but as we're trying to get the word out for boards on how they can be more effective in their nonprofit board service, and as a result, we can create a better society altogether. Because in the heart of it, I believe it comes down to leadership. So if you share it, I'll give you the notes today as well. Just leave me a comment down in there saying that you've been following or that you've shared it or that you'd like to comment to see the notes. Happy to provide that for you. So getting back today, I'm reminded again on something that's said to me, and it's really stuck to me, is that frankly, to get through, in order to get it, you have to go through it. Let me tell you, folks, I've been through it all. I've seen and spoken with board directors of non-for-profits, associations, charities, all over. And what this means for today is, frankly, I'm going to take you both through what I call about roughly the 7 to 8 top steps of actually moving the ball forward for your nonprofit as well, as if you're a board director. So heart me if you'd like to learn more about this as well, and how you can get your ideas beyond just the idea stage as well. Okay, great. Well, before that, I really want to get into about 5 reasons about why this happens, first of all. The first one really is that often enough there's unclear or insufficient communication. Poor communication really about who's exactly accountable for the critical action items and decisions is undoubtedly a recipe for disaster. Assumptions, you know what that's a little there is what's that they say? Assume means you make an ass out of you and me. Don't assume. You got to communicate these kinds of things. Silo mentality. This happens so often as well in nonprofits. But very often, each department or each aspect in an organization, whether it's the board or committees or the staff, will complete its duties in a project and pass it on to the next, leaning to the right hand, not really knowing what the left hand's doing. To solve this challenge, really, you need to have a special board meeting designed to discuss the project and priorities to do the follow-up on this, explaining the importance of each stakeholder's role in these priorities as well. Communications early and often is often fundamental to clarity. The second really thing you need to be thinking about as well is lack of commitment. And I see this happening so often, and this gets on carrying over a bit about yesterday's discussion on governance. And we'll talk about this later on a little bit about getting the right people on the board. But for right now, I see this happening so often in not-for-profits is this willingness to take the first warm body to get involved in your projects. And what that leads to is unsuccessful strategy implementation. It's either by those who are ill-informed or unsupportive or of the chosen direction. And having board and staff involvement in strategy formulation enhances their commitment, frankly, to that. And if there are those, be it staff or board members, who are not involved in this as well, they won't be very committed to the strategy, resulting in, frankly, very negative results in the implementation as well. The third factor you need to be thinking about is inadequate or inadequate resources to back up the needs to be done. Now, I was having a really interesting conversation just 2 weeks ago with another board chair and his staff who were talking about how they have come up with these great ideas, but in the end, because they're a smaller organization, it tends to be that their ambitions are greater than their resources. Now, I get that can be a bit discouraging for some, but what's really important to keep in mind here is very much that you need to be taking this bit by bit and challenging yourselves to saying, have ambitious goals, but not so ambitious that it takes away from your abilities to be able to deliver and actually ends up discouraging in the end. The fourth challenge of why these things happen is that I often see isolated or fragmented actions. All too often, the work is fragmented and compartmentalized, I should say. Processes provide a likely solution, and in the broadest sense, they can be identified as collections of tasks and activities together without putting the whole of the picture together. And that leads to the fifth and the biggest challenge, is often enough that if there's ambiguous or conflicting strategy and goals. These most often come about when the organization is without a strategic plan, or if the goals and actions within the plan are frankly unclear. So I've listed off these five challenges here. If any of this has your head nodding, okay, please leave a comment. Let me know, heart this as well. So I can leave a comment saying preach on, Mark, if you can. So to address this, really there are, as I mentioned, about eight things that your board can do to get you onto the next step there. So first of all, you need to start by building a bold but executable strategy. All right, think practically about your capabilities to be able to deliver and versus your vision. You want to have an ambitious goals, but not so far out there that what it'll end up doing is it'll end up just discouraging people in the end. And that leads to the second thing that you need to be thinking about and asking yourself reasonable questions. Is your goal realistic? Okay? If you're having trouble lining up the right positions with enough of the right people, really the time has come for you and your board to start asking the right questions about whether the goal is realistic or not. That said, it's also indicative of the need for the board to be constantly investing in succession planning to have enough of the right people coming on board, okay? And succession planning is an really important aspect as well in strategy execution. And it's on that note, I'll make a little bit of a side note there. I fully encourage anybody who's listening here to go to find out more about our coming roundtable discussion, which will be dealing exactly with CEO and executive director succession planning. It'll be held on June 14th at 1 p.m. EST. We'll be joined by two leading experts in the field of non-for-profit senior staff succession planning. The third thing that you need to be thinking about is ensuring everyone is fully invested in the change. Now, there's a great saying I've heard once, and I love using this, is that everybody seems to love change, but nobody wants to change, okay? That's just the human nature of things. The board needs to really ensure that the organization, the staff, all of the board is really invested in the change that's going to be necessary to move yourself to the next step there. Making sure that the organization is motivated as well to go along for the journey. Change is not easy. Everybody likes to change, but few actually like to undertake it. Now, another great resource, if this is a challenge for you, is offered actually as members, as part of membership in the resource section for the Society of Nonprofit Board Directors, where we've got a great quick reference called 35 Questions a Board Should Ask Itself Before Undertaking a Change. That'll give you a bit of a barometer of how far you're really able to push the barrel forward, because unless you've got a sense of that, all of your execution and strategy and your ideas are only going to go as far as your willingness on that. The fifth thing that you've got to be thinking about is scheduling checkups. Okay, ensure each board meeting has a checkup on the progress of the strategic plan with a focus on the major elements as well. 6, understand the place of your budget in relation to strategy. Okay, guaranteeing that the board is actually contributing to the change implies that everyone understands the budget as well. This goes back to what I was talking about, the resources. You may have the staff resources, but do you have the financial, is it financially viable, frankly, to be able to do that as well? 7, you need to be able to make certain that you're aligning business units and supporting these areas of strategy. Aligning business units and supporting areas of the strategy is really important here. The implementation of the strategy really does require that all aspects of the organization are integrated. For example, the organization's HR programs, staff incentives, ITs, and priorities should all be integrated if you're big enough for that. Unfortunately, most organizations are unable to effectively manage their processes in a holistic and united way. 8, and final, is you need to really link your budget initiatives and your fundraising from a different, and tackle fundraising from a different perspective. Let me explain. Most successful organizations efficiently coordinate their planning and budgetary processes. However, 60% of the organizations, from the research I found, fail to do so in a structurally consistent way. So the budget is kind of set up to do just this, without a cascading leading effect. And this is a fundamental thing. You can't put this. This is where I'm going to call bullshit on some board members. You can't push this off on your CEO, although they have a role on this. This is fundamentally your job. All right? If you join the board, you have a responsibility on this to be asking the pointing questions about how does this effectively lead. How does the budget lead us to some other areas? Now, to get on the aspect of fundraising, if you're on the charitable side of things, if your board is having difficulty understanding the importance of fundraising, or if they're not coming through as hoped, consider a different approach from making them appeal from this. For example, tell them fundraising is not necessarily about money. It's actually about changing the world. And ask them, frankly, how they would feel if they could actually see personally the result of your organization making an impact. So does any of the above make any kind of sense? Okay, if it does, heart me, let me know, leave a comment in as well below the video as well. How many of you can really see that, can agree with me that it can sometimes really be overwhelming, really, just to know exactly how to get your board's plans moving forward? I mean, I can respect that. Total respect out to the executive directors out there. But I'm going to speak to the board here. What would it mean to have a more informed board that's really in tune and realistic and in tune with what can realistically be done? Speaking to the executive directors that might be hearing this, what would that mean to you? Having a board that gets it as well, that realistically assigns stuff to you and that can be executed. Well, in my humble opinion, this comes down to the ultimate roadblock I was mentioning that nonprofits or impacting society can really do. The rules and models are going to be so complicated that it's too much for the average volunteer or a volunteer board member to really be grasped. And I really believe that society could be better, and we could have a stronger society through nonprofits being involved in helping our society along, if it could lead as a result to stronger leadership at the top. All right? So give me some hearts if you're with me on this. How do we strengthen board leadership and the work that nonprofits are doing? At all. That's a really big challenging thing. If you're curious on this, let me know. I've got some ideas. Can I tell you a little bit about a project as well, another project we've been working on with the Society of Nonprofit Board Directors. We've been busy, frankly, over the last number of months. If you're anything like me, you're confident that, frankly, if you could just simply find an effective way to get crystal clear on what needs to be done, the steps on this, it'd be so much easier. But it can be so complicated there. to get a sense of this. So this is why here at the Society of Nonprofit Board Directors, after chatting with a lot of them, saying what their biggest challenges were, I put together and I wrote another resource called, as I kind of called, Get Her Done. The framework for diagnosing why nonprofit board strategy goes unrealized. It's a comprehensive guide to helping board directors like yourself move past the uncertainty and build confidence in their capabilities. So here's what you'll learn, frankly, in Get Her Done. You'll learn what to do when it seems the board just doesn't seem to execute on plans. Yes, it is possible to get things done, even as a volunteer. You can't, however, order volunteers around like staff. Okay, there are challenges in that. You'll learn what to do when and never seems to be enough board or committee members or volunteers to be able to get there. It's done. How you can recruit as well. You'll learn what to do when not all board members are seen to be taking the initiative, or how you can encourage more of your committee and board members to step up. You'll learn as well on what to do about ambivalent, or sometimes it happens, apathetic board or committee members. Get tips on approaching volunteers with diplomacy and tact. You'll learn how to develop stronger governance policies for succession planning. A great carry on over the discussion we had just yesterday on board and board oversight. You'll learn as well on how to get your board on board with fundraising for charities. The role of the board in fundraising is critical, yet getting all board members to open up the Rolodex isn't always the easiest thing. And seventh of all, you'll learn the fundamentals of setting and monitoring goals. Executing on strategy first requires an understanding of what goes into an inclusive and comprehensive goal setting process. So here's exactly what you do when you get a copy of Get Her Done. You get a thoroughly researched book that's easy to navigate still, and that's been everything that I've researched. That's generally valued about around a $47 value. And if you're anything like me as well, sometimes you like to listen to your books while you're in transit, in your car, or elsewhere. So I'm also offering up the audio version of this transcript. That's got a $27 value. And for extra measure, a copy of the Society's other book that goes hand in hand with motivating board volunteers and members, 7 tips for improving board dynamics. That has a $47 value. Now, the total of that has a value of $121. Now, the experts have encouraged me to bundle all of this for $67. However, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to do that. But let me ask you something, just a couple quick questions. If all of these resources did was get you on a path towards clarity, would it be worth it? If all of these resources did was get you unstuck, would it be worth it? If all of these resources did was give you a step-by-step strategy to upping your board's performance, would it be worth it? Well, I certainly hope so. You see, the combination of these resources are actually going to be priced later on at $67 to the general public. But since you're with me here on this live stream, you're listening to this as well, you can get access today for just $26, okay, today. That's a $95 savings. So what you need to do, if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about Get Her Done, leave a message down in the comments, or message me directly, and I can put you in touch with that. You can also find out more about this yourself and get a free tutorial on all elements of strategy if you go to diagnose.nonprofitboarddirectors.org, and there's a little survey to the side. If you click strategy execution is an issue of challenge for you, you'll get a 20-minute tutorial as free as well. Now, is it okay if I over-deliver and over-promise a little bit on this? Okay. I'm also sweetening the pot there. I'm going to give you the opportunity as well to access this resource, as well as a number of other resources that continue to be growing for the Society of Nonprofit Board Directors, wherein you can get access to membership for $73. Okay, you can upgrade to the full amount for $73. That's a $27 savings on the opportunity to upgrade to full membership for the whole of the year. Now, normally that goes for $99, and if you take this option here, you'll still get the 31-day free trial. Those who go for membership just for without the trial, they pay the $73 the $73, but they get no trial. There, we'll give you the free trial. Honestly, if at the end of 31 days you're not happy with the resources, you're not happy with membership, it's not doing anything for you, we don't deserve your money. So with that, I hope that that helps. It's a little bit my piece for today. Get the word out to others that serve on boards, and hope to connect with you. And thank you again for listening.